Rob Kendall along with Tyler Bless, the head coach of the Plainfield Quakers. Coach, how's it going?
Doing fine. How are you?
Doing great. Obviously, a rain-soaked Friday evening, not the result you wanted. It's just a different game when the weather is like that. Kind of a lot of the prepping anyway just goes out the window because there's so many unknowns.
Yeah, I mean that's something that's out of our control in terms of what Mother Nature's going to do on a Friday night. But you got to prepare for it in the week, and I felt like we did. We did some wet ball Wednesday and some wet ball Thursday, and told our guys that here's what's going to happen. And I don't know again how much rain we're talking, how heavy it's going to come down, if it's going to be the whole game. So you kind of mention it to your players, and you tell them that you can't control it all, and you get to control what you can, and that's your attitude and your effort, and you still got to go out and play football. I mean, if it's just rain, the game's gonna continue. Obviously, unfortunately, we did not get delayed with lightning or thunder, so we were all just wet.
Yeah, and it's one of those things I would imagine where you can prepare all you want, you don't know until you're in it. I mean, obviously there was a bad snap on a punt. It's just a different animal until you actually experience it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that's part of football. It's would love for it to not rain on our senior night and on conference championship game, but those are things that are out of my control, and try to continue to have a positive attitude, regardless if it's raining or if it's 70 and sunny.
All right, so what do you say to the kids after a ball game like this? Obviously, again, a game you guys were in, despite a couple mistakes. A game you probably felt like, hey, we should have won. What's the approach like after you head out of week 9, and then obviously look ahead to sectionals?
Yeah, I mean the approach was that obviously we weren't able to reach one of our goals, and that's frustrating and that's disappointing, and that's something that I think will always be a goal of ours in this program. But you have to give credit to Martinsville; they found ways to make enough plays to win the football game and to share the mid-state conference. So told our guys that when they walk into the locker room on Friday night, they decide on how they want the next 2 weeks of football to be. I mean, we're going in. It's obviously Sunday morning right now, but we're going into a bye week this week with the rest of the 5A and 6A teams. And then we've got a game week coming up here versus a very familiar opponent in West Lafayette Harrison. So really just kind of we all get to decide, coaches, players, everybody that's a part of playing football, decide on how we want these next 2 weeks of football to go. Do we want to have great practices and a great mindset and be positive and cheer each other on? Or do we just want to come in and check a box and say, okay, I went to practice, I went to meetings. I mean, yeah, we're going to play a game and it's going to happen. But I want us to attack these next 2 weeks with a great attitude, with great effort, great body language. Take the coaching. Let's get healthy. Let's rest up the guys we need to. But it's an opportunity for us to continue to grow and continue to learn a lot about our team and ourselves. So, are we perfect? And did we obtain every goal that we had on the board? No, but that's life and that's football. And we've got to move on, and we've got to continue to coach these young men and tell them that the game of football is a lot like a game of life, and you get knocked down and you got to get up, and we got to keep playing football. We got one more guaranteed game to play, and we're going to coach our tails off and put our kids in a great position to win up on the road in 2 Fridays from now.
Defensively, I thought the team played great. Obviously, several big stands inside the red zone. You kept them not only out of the end zone, but also off the scoreboard. So when you're looking for positives, I'm sure the defensive approach, especially down with your backs up against the goal line, is something you look at and say we did pretty well there.
Yeah, I mean, I told our defensive coaches on Friday night in the coach's office, and I told our varsity defensive players on Saturday morning, guys, if you give up 13 points and really probably honestly some of it is 6 points because we put ourselves in a terrible situation on a punt backed up. But if we're giving up 13 points, then our offense is good enough and should be good enough to score more than that and to put ourselves in a position where we can win a football game. So that's disappointing on the offensive side. But in terms of the guys that we have on defense, I thought all 11 guys and even some key subs that came in and rotated did a phenomenal job. They did what they were asked. They were coached up. They played hard. They executed. Martinsville had a good running back. They've got a good quarterback. They've got some good skill players. We knew that was going to happen in terms of those guys getting the ball. But I thought our defense played really well, very hard. pleased with it enough where I'm mad at myself for not getting our offense going and getting enough points in the end zone.
It's almost impossible, though, to get an offensive going on a night like that, right? I mean, obviously, look, Starnes is a phenomenal player, but if they know you're probably going to run the ball a lot because you can't pass the ball, or it's very, very difficult to pass the ball. And Martinsville had the same thing. It's just very difficult to move the football on a night like that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that was disappointing on our end was we were able to establish drives, but then we turned it over 2 times in the first half. So, I mean, I know that those guys that I know Luke fumbled and I know Hunter threw an interception, but like they're not trying to do it on purpose. I mean, they're playing football. The guy makes a great tackle on Luke's fumble. I mean, his helmet's right on the ball and it pops out. I think we're like 3rd and 7, and Hunter's trying to throw to a kind of a skinny post to Isaiah Miller, and the safety comes down and comes up in front of it. So, looking back, obviously we don't want to turn the ball over, but we were able to establish drives even in the third quarter. It's just, a negative play here and there really gets you behind the sticks. And then when it's raining and it's 3rd and 13, anybody that's in the stands that wants to come down and call a 3rd and 13 call in the rain can be more than happy to. I'd love for them to see what they could do better. So it's frustrating, but it's something that we signed up for, and we'll get it figured out.
All right, so before we do that, let's thank our sponsors again who have made our broadcast possible all year long, our play-by-play of the coaches shows: CJ's Pizza, Whitlow's Towing, Gunnell Financial, Remax Centerstone, Julia Burbridge, Midwest Pizza, BGW Construction, Porter Hair Design, Holly Porter, My IT Indy, I-70 Record Service and Garage, Ellison Associates, Remax, Chipotle, and Double D Barbecue. All right, Coach, the second season begins now. Arguably, I think you'd say probably the most important part of the season, sectionals. Bye week before we go to Harrison. Let's talk about the bye week first real quick. How do you guys kind of handle the bye week?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to take some days off here for our players. They're going to have 2 days sometime this week off. We'll practice in the middle of the week and kind of do just a little bit of what we call good on good, where we're just practicing really our stuff versus our offense, our defense. We'll incorporate some special teams. But one thing that we also do is we've got about 14 freshmen that are coming up to practice with us. So those guys will go into individual periods. They'll go to group periods. And then on Thursday afternoon, we're going to do a feature scrimmage where we'll mix those freshmen in with some of our JV guys and try to just go offense, defense, and set the clock for 30 minutes and just let those guys play football and kind of want to evaluate them, but also too just like try to make it fun and say, hey, let's go play football against guys that are either in the same grade as you or a grade up, or maybe 2 grades up, that are going to be your teammates here in the future. So we'll do that on Thursday afternoon, and we'll try to keep our weekend routine as close to possible on Saturday. Obviously, the players will have Sunday off, and then we'll get into game week here in 2 weeks. But the bye week is however you want to approach it, just kind of like our fall break last week of, do we want to take advantage of it and take care of our bodies and get healthy, or, do we want to get distracted and not be as focused? So I'm looking forward to the bye week in terms of just kind of getting back to the basics, not necessarily worried about opponent in those first couple days, and just really focused on our football team and our football players.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the opponent. Obviously, Harrison, you guys saw him earlier this year. Great comeback win. So what do you take away from – it's been a long time now, many weeks since you guys played, but how much do you take away from that, and how do you guys go about kind of preparing for Harrison what they bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, since we played them in week 2, that's their only loss of the season. They've rolled off 7 straight wins. I believe they won their conference. They're 8-1. I mean, they're still really good. I mean, it's still the same old Harrison that was like in week 2, and then last year when we played them twice. So their defense is leading 5A with points allowed at like 9.25. So we've got to obviously bring our game offensively, but even defensively, our guys, I thought did a really good job of stopping their jet sweep stuff that they did early on. They're still doing it. They're still got those running backs that are still healthy. So going up there, I don't think is as big of a challenge as people might think it is. I mean, we've gone up there now. This will be the 3rd time in 2 years. We know we know the route we're going to take. We know where the locker room's at. We know how to, what the field's going to look like, all that stuff. So we try to take advantage of common opponents. But we've also played, this will be the fourth time we played them, and I think each game has ended in 8 points or less. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again.
Last year, obviously, we went up there in the postseason, got it done. Obviously, it's a new year, new us, right? But how much do you kind of put that in the kids' heads and say, look, remember, we did this exact same thing many of you did last year?
Yeah, I mentioned that yesterday with our players. Like, last time I checked, we were still defending sectional 13 champions. So, that's a great thing to say, and it's a great thing to be able to do last year. But we really just got to take it one game at a time. If we win, we continue to play. If we lose, we're turning our gear in. So I think our kids know that they're smart. They understand how the process works. But I think that's what's so unique and important about the bye week is that you get to practice these days here that's going to make it beneficial in the game week practices that, okay, hey, I know this scouting report inside and out. I know exactly what my opponent's going to do. This is a common opponent where we played them, before. We've got 3 games on them. Like, we know kind of what they're going to do. They know what we're going to do. And I would say that we're a very kind of equal team in terms of the players and what we try to do and what they try to do. So, got to take it one day at a time, but also it's like you said, it's a new season where, win and you keep playing.
What is the speech like? Is it like some sort of Animal House? What's this lying around stuff? Like, how do you motivate high school kids?
That's a great question. I mean, you've got to talk to them in a way where you've got to get your point across. And sure, there was some probably maybe my tone was a little bit different than it is right now on a Sunday morning than it was Saturday morning, but like, we're not executing. I mean, we're not playing the football that we played the first 5 and even probably 6 weeks of the season. I don't. It's not just one thing, and it's not one player or one coach or anything like that. It's just we're not executing enough consistently on offense, defense, and special teams. And that's unfortunate, but that's also football where we got to look back at it and see, okay, hey, where can we be better at? Where do we need to, cut down on something? Do we have the right guys in positions? And then the kids just got to have the ability to have laser focus on what we're asking them to do when we're asking them to do it. Whether it's a meeting for 30 minutes or a practice for an hour and a half, like, I need your guys' attention. I need you to focus, kind of comes down to, do you like football or do you love football? And I think you can answer that by how you attack your practices, how you have great body language, how your attitude is, what type of effort you give on a bye week practice when you're not going to play a game for another week and a half. So like all those things are being evaluated by all of our coaches, but also, as coaches, we've got to do that ourselves. Like, if we have terrible body language, then don't be surprised when our kids have terrible body language. When we don't have a great attitude about practice or a meeting or an address, then expect our players to not respond in the correct way. So we've got to have a positive mindset. We've got to have a championship mindset, and we've got to continue to, have a little bit of trust, love, and commitment on what our core values are for our program. So I'm not going to go away from those things. I'm going to continue to say them until I'm blue in the face, and I'm going to die on that hill.
Yeah, because ultimately, and I covered the games last year, I can't tell you what our record was last year, but I can tell you how awesome it was to call that game when we won the sectional. So ultimately, this right now is how you get judged. There's a lot of teams who have gone 8-1, 9-0, who lose in the sectional, and people are, as great as those teams might have been at all levels, they don't really get remembered. But the sectional championship does get remembered. So this is when it kind of starts counting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a unique way that the IHSA does it, and it's I think it's still the ping pong little ball comes out and says, okay, Plainfield plays at West Lafayette Harrison, and Decatur plays at McCutcheon. Now, in terms of the seating and all that stuff on what people, what would want to do, but I think it's been like this for as long as I can remember. So you kind of sometimes you get a lucky draw, sometimes you get an okay draw, and sometimes you just get a bad one. So I'm good with ours. We're gonna have to play the really good teams in our sectional anyway, so might as well start checking them off the list.
All right, Coach, let's get out of here as we always do with someone or someone's plural behind the scenes with Plainfield football who make things work but don't always get a lot of credit.
Yeah, this week is our seniors. I mean, we had senior night on Friday night. We've got 17 seniors that have done a lot for our program. Whether they've played all 4 years, maybe they played 3 years or 2 years, but have a ton of respect for our senior players and appreciate everything they've done. I'm excited to see them get into the sectionals and get in and kind of hopefully a routine here of defending our sectional championship, but really appreciate our young men in our program that have kind of taken a leadership role and have kind of steered this thing in the direction that we're going. So I'm very pleased and proud of our senior players and appreciate everything they've done for us so far, and that's what they'll continue to do for us in the future.
All right, Coach, let's get a big win. Not this Friday, but next Friday. We'll look forward to a coach's show in 2 weeks and hopefully talking about the trip to the sectional finals. Good luck, and we'll be excited to hear it all unfold on a week from Friday.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Have a great week.